Politics Local Elections Special. I'm here with Dominic Finn, local election candidate for Fianna Fail. Dom, you're very welcome to the podcast and thanks for coming on. It's great to have one of my former teachers running for a local election and being able to interview him instead of the other way around for once.
That's absolutely right, boy.
So, Dom, what we're going to do is we're just going to start by asking you why you chose Fianna Fail and how you got involved with them, and tell us a little bit about Dominic.
So I suppose I've been a supporter of Fianna Fail for a long time because growing up at home, my dad was always a Fianna Fail supporter, so I suppose it was part of our upbringing, you know. And I suppose for that reason, I kept an interest in politics, always had an interest in politics, and in particular what's going on in the local area. And I suppose then, you know, the fact that you're from the town and you're involved in the town, I'm teaching in the town, I'm involved in music in the town, you know, you can't but be interested in what's going on. And I suppose for that reason, that's the reason why I got involved in the local election coming up.
And that's a very interesting way to get involved in politics, because I know myself, I was very interested when I saw you were running for local election. And the first question I'm going to ask you now, Dominic, is about infrastructure in Cobh. We all know infrastructure in Cobh at the moment is at an all-time low, and this is down to many reasons, but a lot of people will kind of know you're a very good candidate for Cobh, and I just want to give you a little bit of time now just to speak on infrastructure and what your plan over the next 1 year for infrastructure is.
Okay, so I think we'll all agree, to be honest, Jack, that the infrastructure in Cobh is in a bad state. If we take the roads, for example, we're all talking about the Fort Road. We know that it's not sufficient. It's the only access road into Cobh by road. And the problem we have is that we really, really need an upgrade of some sort. Whether it is a brand new road, whether it is an amendment of the existing road, whether it's having a second access bridge onto the island, but something has to be done. Okay. The other issue then around the Fort Road is when we have accidents, right? Now, we know only too well there's regular accidents now at this stage. When we have an accident on the road gets shut down. What happens with that? People end up being late for work, people are missing appointments, deliveries are being delayed, and then we then have no access because the road is shut down. So, you know, we need to have a look at that. And the other thing in relation to the Fort Road is that when we do have an accident, and let's say there was an emergency on the island, we need to have an emergency plan in place. And I do know, God rest her, Claire Conlan, she had started to look into the emergency plan for Cobh and Great Island, and she didn't get to the end of it. But that is something that has to be looked at, because, you know, surely be to God, if there's an accident on the Fort Road and we need to get an ambulance onto the island, that actually we can find the alternative route in through Fort Estate and explore that. The other thing then, coming in over the bridge, we have the state of the roads. We know, let's say, take for example Ballard Hill. Now, Jack, if you were driving up Ballard Hill and you had false teeth, right? Yeah. They'd actually fall out. There's so much bumping going on with the cement that's falling out of the trucks, for example. Now, it hasn't been like that for years, right? So I think there has to be some kind of an agreement with companies like the cement trucks that they're not spilling cement when they're coming up the hills, right? You have the infrastructure, then the roads, the roads around the housing estates. Again, you take Clonard, where I'm living, okay, down Ballyleary. Serious underdevelopment of infrastructure down there. And if you take down the Boring, down Ballyleary, you've got two small borings down there. Those roads were never built for traffic wages, right? So I do know that the developers have given over money towards the redevelopment of those junctions, and they need to be done, because I know there's drawings, I've seen the drawings, I know there's plans for widening of those junctions, Sight lines need to be improved, widening, and so on. That needs to be done. Even simple things like there's a stop sign missing at the bottom of the Boreen. What happened last week was there was a tourist went down that road. There was no stop sign. They went straight out to the road and a car went into it. Okay. So that's, these things are going to happen all the time. You have speeding along the tail road. That's another huge thing that needs to be taken. And the issue I have then is that you have a speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour on the tail road, but when you turn up the Boreen, it goes up to 60.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's things like that need to be looked at. The roads are not designed down there for car traffic. They were designed for horse cars. So you have the photo road situation, development of an emergency plan that needs to be done. You have the roads in the Cobh, the roads around the housing estates, and then you have other infrastructure such as water supply. And I'm full aware of issues with water pressure up in places like Clonard at the moment. I've called for a lot of residents up there, and they've showed me themselves the issues with the water. Some houses, have very little access to the showers. Machines aren't running properly. And so we're currently trying to liaise with Irish Water to see if we can find a resolution, because this has gone on way too long.
Yeah. And this brings us on to the second point for housing.
Yeah.
We all know that last week the Cork County Council unveiled a massive new development of houses in Clonard, a mixed development of both social, affordable and private housing, which, people don't disagree with that. It's fantastic seeing new houses being built in Cobh. I for one I'm delighted that it's being built. But this kind of ties in with the first point about infrastructure, what's the council going to do over the next 5 years to help the housing developments in Cobh develop with the kind of lack of infrastructure? Is there plans in place to ensure that if a developer gets a development or gets planning permission for X amount of houses, that he has to carry out ABC in planning work and infrastructure work before the housing can go ahead?
Well, first of all, Jack, what needs to happen is we need to just turn over more housing quicker. I'm even talking to past pupils, that were in school with me 10 years ago that are now trying to buy their homes, They're at that stage, and it's a crucial stage. So we do need to turn over houses quicker. I do know as well that, from time to time there's a shortage of trade. People actually, builders and that to actually do the work. But we do need to turn over more housing quicker. But also, if there's planning permission granted for, let's say, a new housing estate, and let's say part of the conditions are that infrastructure around it has to be done, let's say widening of junction, all that, it should be done before the housing construction starts. Okay, not afterwards. Okay, because we know full well that you have construction traffic coming in and it's damaging the roads, and it's just not fair,
And we all know that with Two Line now, in fairness, that's a very good development housing in Cobh, But we all know that one of the points for that was that as part of phase 2, they have to, I think the developer has to make sure that footpaths are put in as part of phase 2. And I'm just wanting to ask, because I have gotten a few questions about those footpaths going in down there. Has there been any updates or anything like that you've made aware of that we can share with the listeners? Or
well, the only thing that I know is that I've seen the drawings for the infrastructure for the footpaths, and I mean, like this is also, Jack, a health and safety issue. There's no point in having construction traffic going up and down the road and you have no safe footpaths. Now, they did put in some footpaths coming down Ballyleary down to a certain part, and then they stopped, right?
Yeah.
But of course, there's loads of more houses down beyond that, and it's literally not safe to be walking, in the current state. So they have to be done.
Definitely. And this kind of brings us into point number 3, which is healthcare. And in fairness, in terms of healthcare, Dom is very heavily involved with the Cobh Community First Responder group, which just recently relaunched. And in fairness, Dominic has done quite a lot of work with Cobh Community First Responders, making sure they got their defibrillators, making sure they got back up and running again. And Dom, I just want to ask you to speak a little bit about that, because I think it's important that the listeners hear just how important getting the Cobh Community First Responders re-established was. Because I know myself, I attended a few of the provisional meetings before they set it back up. With a few of my friends from Cobh Lions Club. So just give us a bit of an insight into how the Cobh Community First Responder Group is doing and why the need for it to come back.
Sure.
Was necessitated.
So I suppose, we've been lucky in Cobh here because we've had Cobh First Responders 15, 16 years ago set up. Roy Brophy and Ray Hurley, and all the gang. And they did an absolutely tremendous job. The problem was COVID came along.
Yeah.
And all the first responders in the country were stood down. Okay. And then coming out of COVID, then they were trying to get the first responders groups all up around the country back up and running again. But you had to be recertified and retraining and all this kind of. There was a lot of paperwork involved. And that at the time was proving a little bit of a difficulty for the Cobh First Responders. And so at the time then, if there was, let's say, an emergency in Cobh and you rang 999 and you got a call out, you were waiting for a first responder to come from Carrigtwohill to come over to Cobh. So that's 10 minutes, and time is critical. So I was approached to know, could I help out in the middle and try to bring all the interested parties together, which I did. And it was actually in July of last year, July 2023. And I spoke to East Cork First Responders and Ian Grant, who's over in Carrigtwohill. Brilliant guy, great to chat to. Got him on board, got him sitting down with the Cobh people again, and we literally just worked our way through it. What do we need to do? Get all the paperwork ready again, guard vetting, you name it, certification. And we just literally rallied the community, rallied the troops, and we have just over 20 first responders here on the island now. So they were officially launched on the 1st of April of this year, and they've had several call-outs since. And we were literally starting from scratch again with no money. So we had to fundraise. The community has been absolutely fantastic, getting behind the responders, with funding. The council have given funding with grants, and that's only the start of it. There's so much more to do, but I can honestly say that we are so lucky in this town, on this great island, to have great island first responders available on our doorstep again, and thank God for that.
Definitely. And I know myself, last year I was down to Water's Edge myself in September last year, and I know there was a gentleman I know, and he became very unwell, and we ended up having to ring 999, an ambulance for him. And what a lot of people didn't know, until the Community First Responders became back active again, is Cork County Fire Brigade and the lads in Cobh Fire Station were the ones who actually had to respond. Now, and I have to take my hat off to the lads in Cobh Fire Station. If they're listening to this, lads, he played an absolute blinder, because what happens in Cobh and in Middleton and a few other locations, that if you ring 999 and there's no ambulance available, what they're actually doing now is they're actually dispatching the fire brigade for certain calls, so say like cardiac related calls, stroke related calls, and they're also tasking the first responders now, because I'm pretty sure when we were talking on the phone last Saturday, I mentioned this to you, that Cobh is actually caught between a rock and a hard place. The two nearest ambulance stations to Cobh are down in Youghal, which is 40 minutes to the east of Cobh, and Kinsale Road, which would be to 20 minutes to the west of Cobh. And we all know, if in a cardiac arrest, seconds matter, that like after 6 minutes, there's a very slim chance of coming back, So that's the reason why having the first responders on site within the first 5 to 10 minutes of a cardiac arrest or a heart attack is vital.
Yeah.
And the second thing I just wanted to bring up to you, Dom, about healthcare was the primary care centre, because we talked a little bit about this as well, and how there needs to be more done with the primary healthcare centre here in Cobh, because we all know that the the 3 doctors that are down there are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
They provide an absolutely essential service for people here in Cobh. But what a lot of people realise now is that we have a slightly older population in Cobh. You know, they're starting to get older.
Yeah.
They need more healthcare requirements. And the 3 GPs that are down in Cobh are reaching a point now where they're getting ready to look into the twilight years of their life and kind of maybe step away from medicine.
Yeah.
So,
So I suppose in that, you know, we've the healthcare facility down at Ticknock. It's a 30,000 square foot facility, you know, that has GP suites, treatment rooms, and providing additional GP services. As also, you know, it provides a single point of contact with the HSE, right? Look, we got 6 GPs on the island, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's enough for a growing population. And here's me then with my geography hat on. You know, we talk about an aging population, and in the years coming down the line, you know, we're going to have more and more people that need medical care. We have a situation at the moment where people in Cobh can't get access to GPs, and they're going to have to carry 2 walk-in clinics, right?
Yeah.
My own wife, she's a GP practice nurse downtown. She's absolutely flat out, you know, with dealing with patients. And I can tell you that we are severely stretched with access to GPs, and that certainly needs to be looked at, you know, on this island. And, you know, we need to utilise this primary healthcare centre down in Ticknock. I know it's still not fully occupied yet, but it's nearly there from what I'm led to believe. So we're getting there, but we do need to look at how we can best utilise it for our community with, as I said, with a growing population.
And I think that's a very good point that Dominic has made there, that, you know, and that the primary healthcare centre down in Cobh needs to be fully utilised as well. But another important question I had for you, Dominic, was, we all know CUH and the Mercy, the A&E departments in there are chock-a-block at best at the moment. What would your opinion be on, say, having like a minor injuries unit or a medical assessment unit down there, you know, to try and take some of that pressure off the 2 main A&Es up in Cork? And also, I was going to ask you, do you think that maybe a devolution of some of the healthcare requirement or some of the healthcare services from the, say, central government back to local government, like it was 24 years ago when I was a small fella, would be a good idea?
Well, certainly we need to, you know, I think this is a bigger issue and maybe a national issue, because we're hearing about healthcare issues up and down the country. But I suppose from a local level, you know, if we have facilities, if we think we can utilise, you know, as I said, this primary healthcare centre, and put in extra facilities, extra treatment rooms, you know, to, you know, that people can use, as opposed to having to go up to Cork and sit there for hours and hours, you know, scanning machines. If that's an option, you know, I actually really don't know the answer to that at the moment. That's to be honest, because that's a bigger issue.
Get above your pay grade.
Well, no, yeah.
And look, that's not a job or anything like that, lads. It's kind of like, you know, at the moment that we honestly don't know what's going to happen with the healthcare centre, the primary healthcare centre here in Cobh.
Well, I think, look, the bottom line here, look, is that first of all we need to start looking after our own people here.
Yeah.
And look, in the next few years, you know, if 1 or 2 doctors are retiring and they're not being replaced, we're going to be absolutely in serious trouble. So I do genuinely think that we get back to basics and making sure that everybody has an access to a GP first.
And I think that's a very crucial point. That I think like this now, folks, is something that central government needs to look at rather than local government, is incentivising younger doctors to pursue a career in general practice. Because, you know, a lot of the problem with medicine nowadays is everyone either wants to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, a neurosurgeon, they want to be a gastroenterologist, when, you know, some of the best work you can do is actually as a GP, you know, because like I've talked to my own GP about this, and he's told me many, many times it is the most rewarding job in the planet, you know, being able to help someone or get someone back on track after they've been sick. He said it's a very rewarding career. And Dom, we're going to get back to the we're going to kind of veer away from healthcare now, and we're going to get into your forte, which is education. We mentioned earlier that Dominic is a teacher in Cloistermore and Cobh, and many students, such as myself, are very lucky to have him for music. Some of my friends are very lucky to have him for religion and geography. I never had you for religion or geography.
I was lucky.
But I remember being in first year, and you found out I was playing the violin, and I'll never forget, you were like, come on Jack, break out the violin, time to play a few trad tunes.
And you did it out in the yard.
Yeah, and the demo. And it was actually, you know what, it was actually very good to kind of see teachers had an interest in music in the school and stuff like that. But the reason we're talking about education now, folks, is Cloistermore, my past secondary school, and where Don teaches, is currently in the process of getting a massive extension, which it's sorely needed. To tell you how long this extension's been going on, when we were going into 6th year, we had been told that the extension will be started just after we left the school. Here we are 7 years later, and poor Dom and all the teachers up in the Cobh don't have the extension they so badly need, because I'll say it here and now, folks, that a lot of the teachers in the Cobh got me through a very difficult time during the Leaving Cert and got me through it. And you know, I just want to give Dom a chance here now to kind of talk about a little bit about the story about the extension, how they've been kind of pushed from pillar to post, and how that kind of helped Dom decide he was going to run in the locals to get the Cloistermore the extension it so desperately needs for the staff and pupils.
Yeah. So if you go back 5 years ago, I was asked to run for the local elections, and I said no, it wasn't the right time. So I left it be back then, and then we got to 2020 and COVID came. So COVID again, here we go. And we were teaching from home. And there was one particular day I had to go into school to pick up a textbook, and I was coming out and I met our principal, Fergus, and for some reason, I don't know, it just came into my head. I just asked him, look, what's the story with this application for the additional accommodation? That's what it's called, additional accommodation. And he said, do you know what? He said, it's going on since 2016. And he said, I'm just getting the run around and ring them up, and she's dealing with it, and I ring them up, he's dealing with it. Moved from this desk over to that desk, this office to that office, and pure runaround. So I said, look, can I take down all the details? So I took down all the details, and James O'Connor was just after being elected TD, and he was downtown, and I went down to him and I said, look, James, I said, you're our representative. I said, this has gone on far too long, and I said, I want this to be sorted. So he said, look, put a report together. Put a report together for him, 14 pages, went back to him, and I said, look, we need a resolution on this, we need to see this through. And I just hounded it, we just hounded it, myself, a couple of others, John Hewitt, the board, and hounded, and finally they sat up and they took notice, and luckily enough, we were in the process of the design stage. So they did the design, and the plan would be out the front of the school would be a 3-story extension of additional accommodation. So that's going to include general classrooms, specialist rooms, SNA rooms, resort rooms, new labs, new music room, new art room. So I'm delighted with that. And then what will happen is, you know, people say, oh, what's going to happen with the car park? So the condition is, the condition is that the row fabs at the back will be demolished. Now, so we're getting there. You know, I think we're now up to the budget's about 10 million now at this stage.
And for anyone that doesn't know Cloistermore, a lot of my fondest memories of being in the Cobh were actually in the row fabs. They were all, you could always, the thing about the row fabs they were always the classrooms with the most character in the school. You know, because like I remember when I was out there in 6th year, Mr. Walsh had 20, or was it Mr. Barry? 26.
So, Mr. Barry 27, yeah.
Yeah, down the bottom by St. Mary's.
That's right.
And then you had Ross Connolly was in 23, and I remember they were some of the best classrooms that you could ever have, you know.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic. They were actually fantastic because they were very warm during the winter. Like, I think they were actually better insulated than some of the classrooms in the main school itself. and like there, but I like I remember being down in the old school then one day, and it was a cold November day, and I'll never forget this. We gone from being lovely and toasty in 23 up in the Rofabs to being absolutely freezing down in room 21.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely. But you see, again, like all of this is just to cope with the existing structure, the school community, if you look at education on the island, we have 6 primary schools, you've got 2 secondary schools, but, Cobh Community College are also supposed to be getting a new build. And I think a new build up there certainly will be able to take a lot, like there's not going to be a massive shortage of spaces on the island. So people think that we have a shortage of spaces on the island. We do to an extent, right? But we do know that a lot of people go off the island by choice, And I know full well that there are people going off the island because they don't have a choice, because they can't get into Closhimere or co-vocational school, So, but the one thing that I'm after really discovering is might not necessarily be the lack of spaces, but it's the lack of investment. I was up at St. Joseph's the other day, and the principal Owen Kennedy has done a massive amount of work on the ground floor, and then I went up to see the upstairs, and there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done, but we need investment from the government.
Definitely.
We really need investment,
Because there's a saying that I always say to people: by investing in education, you're investing in people's future. And, like we were very lucky when I was in secondary school. Teachers like Don here invested their time in us, and I don't think I turned out too badly,
No, absolutely not. Sure, because interviewing me.
Exactly. Who would have thought 7 years ago I'd be running my own political podcast and doing pretty well, comparatively speaking. And I think as well, the like St. Mary's also needs additional funding, and all the other secondary schools, or primary schools, my apologies. But an interesting fact that was said to me the other day was that apparently there's a lack of preschool places in Cobh as well, that a lot of people are struggling to find preschool education places.
Yeah, so you'd imagine with all the new housing is that's certainly an issue, and you have, parents that have to bring their children off the island up to Cork or to other places for childcare because we can't get places locally. So again, that needs to be looked at, and that needs to be considered again into the infrastructure on the island with all the new developments that are coming on.
And that's very true. And I just want to finish off with the education thing. For many people in Cobh, many of them would have gone to Closhimere, myself included.
Yeah.
Was Closhimere has actually experienced a massive growth in numbers in the school in the last 7 years, because I know when I was in there for 5th and 6th year, the school had been taking on 125. Now I think they're taking on, is it between 125 and 150 a year?
125.
Yeah, 125.
Yeah. So we've got 125 coming in the first year in September. So, the numbers, I mean, when I was going to school there, growing up, you could pick Closhimere, or as we called it, tech. There was no problem, no shortage of places. But now we are over 700 in Closhimere.
Yeah.
And we two deputy principals for that number. Now, it's not going to be the case that we're going to go over 1,000 or anything like that, because I think you lose your sense of community. But we have 2 secondary schools on the island, and with the new build for the community college and with the new additional accommodation in Closhimere, it's going to make a huge difference to the school secondary facilities on the island.
Because I know when I was there and it was at 625, we already thought it was crowded enough.
Yeah, I know.
And so that kind of brings us into business then, because kind of like, Dom will kind of be very involved in kind of a lot of local music businesses and stuff like that, and he's very involved with the local community here in Cobh. He's the main organist down in St. Coleman's Cathedral, because I know when I was having my confirmation decades ago, and now, well, it feels like decades ago, Dom was the organist at that, and I think as well, you also played for the Pope in 2018.
So we had the Pope we did need up in the Phoenix Park, and then we were also over in the Vatican in 2009 and 2013. So yeah, we were lucky enough. But like talking about business, I mean, you know, born and bred here, you just love your town. Cobh is a great town. Cobh is a tourist town, and it has a variety of businesses. Like you got food, clothing, cafes, restaurants. But one of the issues that I'm hearing is the whole area about the commercial rates.
Yeah,
that needs to be looked at. Because businesses are struggling. The cost of utility bills has gone way up. There's a shortage of staff. There's a shortage of accommodation for staff, which is another serious issue. We have parking issues. We have a lack of parking, which is having a serious impact on businesses too. And businesses are really, really struggling. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to see more and more restaurants and cafes closing down towards the end of the year. So, I suppose me personally, here in the town, I would be committed to campaign for reducing commercial rates for in the interests of the local businesses.
Oh, and I think that's a very fair point to make. And in fairness, when I was talking to Dom about local businesses in Cobh before he came on the podcast today, he was very supportive of all the local businesses in Cobh. And like, from my chats with Dom about the issues that local businesses are facing, he was very, very upfront and said that if any of the businesses needed help, that he would not mind going in and talking to them and giving them a hand. And I think that was one thing that the other candidates that I've interviewed also said, but I think Dom is kind of a bit more in tune with what local businesses need, in my personal opinion. Now,
just in relation to that, I think also we just need to embrace the community, and and if we all come together, embrace the community, I think we can certainly help the businesses. We see it every year, especially coming up to Christmas. Support local, shop local. So I think just that community effort, to support that.
So that's all the main questions we have for you, Dom. Yeah. We're going to finish off now with a few nice enough questions, because I kind of think here we go. I think you did very well with those kind of very tough interview questions. So time now to kind of give you a few nice, easy questions to kind of finish off the interview. So I know you're a very local community centric individual yourself, Dom, and I just kind of want to ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years if you have been elected if you're lucky enough to be elected next week? And do you see yourself running for again as a county councillor? Do you see yourself maybe making a run for the Dáil as the second Fianna Fail TD for Cork East? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Well, fingers crossed anyway, we'll get elected anyway next weekend.
Touch wood.
Touch wood, please God. But I suppose, look, what is good is, the work that you do. And, we need to make progress, I'm only sitting here talking to you because I'm passionate about my town. We want to see progress. We need to see change. We need to see a new energy in the town. And I would like to think that in 5 years' time, that there will be evidence of that. If there's not, I don't know if we've done a good job or not, so like, I can tell you this much: if we get elected, it'll be hitting the ground running. But I would seriously though say that there needs to be, and this is again coming back from a teacher's perspective, communication.
Yeah,
I think communication in the community is absolutely vital. And you can be absolutely assured, if I get elected, I will make sure that people in the town know what's going on. If there's road closures coming up, that they know well in advance, that you don't wake up in the Monday morning and find the harbour roads closed down, and nobody knows about it. So it's things like that. You need to communicate. There needs to be dialogue. You need to be chatting to the organisations, the clubs, the businesses. Get them all on board and communicate.
And that's very true. And the final question I want to ask you, Dom, is for young people that are interested in going into politics, like myself, you know, what advice would you give us? Would you would you say get involved in the community more? Would you say find a political party? What would your advice be for a young person getting involved in politics?
So I suppose, again, here we go, coming back to being a teacher, but like, I'm the 6th year this year, so I'm dealing with the 18-year-olds, the 17, the 18 and the 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm saying to them all is, lads, if you're 18, get out and register to vote, right? Because your vote is your voice. And there'll be nothing worse than in a few years' time and people are giving out, you know, and they don't exercise. So, like, what I'm trying to encourage the young people, and again, this is the beauty about being a teacher, I'm getting a connection with the younger people in society, and I'm getting to hear what they have to say. I'm getting to hear their concerns. I'm getting to hear what they would like to see, because they're going to be our future. So I'm encouraging the young people to get involved in the community, get involved in committees, get stuck in, you know, clubs, organisations, voluntary groups, you know, as you said, the Lions Club.
Yeah.
You have the Responders, you have the Red Cross, you have all the sporting organisations. Get involved and get stuck in, because you'll only get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly. And I think Dom has made very good points there over the last 40 minutes about, you know, community engagement, involvement, and encouraging people to get out there and be part of their community. I know Dominic would very much appreciate your number one vote in the upcoming local election, and I look forward to him doing well in the election and getting in, because I look forward to having him back around the table for more conversations with other county councillors that will hopefully be elected. I know Dominic would appreciate your first preference vote, or the next highest consideration that you'd give him. So folks, this is going to wrap up the episode with Dominic Finn, local election candidate for Fianna Fail in the Cobh LEA. Dominic, thanks so much for coming on. You've joined us there, and folks, we'll talk to you on the next one, and I hope you do well. Thanks, bye bye.
Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon. Ever need a boost, count on me for the 1-2. Trouble don't last when the tough get